ties into what we said last time about like the buy-in and communication with leadership team. It just kind of shows some progress there, and that they're giving us the space to be able to do that, to be able to communicate that data, and to be able to push the team forward with that.
Sasha, I think you're talking, but you're on mute. Yo, Sasha, are you there?
Sorry, I was on the phone.
Okay.
I couldn't turn my camera off. My bad. Yeah, I was messing with that. I should. Progress. We are interviewing for that position. For the attendance officer. So we're going to go ahead and add that person to our team. So that's the update. That person will do all the things that you have on there. Yes. Collaborate with that lead and with me. Yeah.
That's awesome, Sasha. That's really cool. Just jumping on some innovation.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll all have attendance officers in a couple of years.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, ideally we wouldn't need one, but we'll see.
Yeah. Now, are there any like things that would be worth sharing with people, or maybe you already have? I can't remember, but like the sort of job description or anything like that would be cool for other folks to see.
Yeah, I shared it with Mueller. Yeah, if you want me to share it with you, you can just like.
Yeah. Do you want to do that, and then I can just make sure everybody sees it if you don't mind. Cool. All right. Let's go now. Sarah, you want to do the slide?
Yeah. If you guys can, I think, start by clicking the link to the slides in the chat. See the little wolf one come up. I feel like y'all are both wolves. Or no, that's Caitlin already in there. Anywho, if you so I made some like reflection / like planning tabs in your reflection docs. So if we pull up Livingston's as an example. And Mahoney, if you go to the like 21, 22 planning tab. Here are some recommended steps and then resources for planning. And so I want you guys to take like 2 minutes just to look this over. Would love your feedback. And then one thing I'm also wondering is, this is Google Sheets. Like, would it be substantially more helpful for you if this was in Google Docs or in a different format? So 2 minutes, overall feedback, additions that might be helpful. And then like, does this format work for you? Would you use this? Livingston Wolves, what do y'all think?
I think it's cool. I won't be doing the planning, so I would definitely defer to Caitlin. But I I do really like the using the Word style doc, the one that we have for MTSS.
MTSS.
Similar but like different format. So that's just my personal preference, but I think it's great.
Yeah, I just appreciate having all of this kind of set up. I feel like over the summer when I'm planning new stuff, I'm in like this whirlwind and like chaos of like trying to do everything. And I feel like this will help me like stay on track and actually like focus and set like realistic goals for our team.
Nice. That is cool. I'm excited. Hey, Sam, happy first day of testing. Wrapped up. If you click on the link in the chat, we were just walking through within the reflection doc you guys were already using. I added some tabs that people can use for planning for next school year. And so just was take a second, take a minute or two to look through it and let me know, like, do you think you guys would use this? Would there be things to make it more helpful?
One thing that I'm thinking, do you have in mind like a recommended timeline for folks around like when certain pieces should be done or by what point like the plan should be in place? That could
Yeah, that's helpful. What do y'all think looking at it?
I wonder if on that recommended next steps, maybe it's just like for those like broader like steps, it's like the role clarity by this time, tier 1 systems by this time, continuum by this time. So it's like it's not super granular, but kind of gives some benchmarks for people to. What do y'all think about that?
That makes sense. Like a couple things that come to mind. I think it's like 11-month staff are involved in the process. You would definitely want to get like their thoughts, input, like while they're still working, which is June 4th. And then I think if there is something that like needs a significant shift in someone's capacity or role, like they're spending a significant like more time on attendance, I think the sooner the better, obviously. And then thinking about like summer PD plans and like your school's timeline for solidifying like PD schedules, which I feel like, I don't know, Sam, I don't know at other campuses, but like mid-June is probably like when you need to have a good feel of like, at the very least, like we want, you know, an hour of PD time unattended. So I think those are sort of the things that would drive urgency, but then like some of the details can get like fleshed out at the start of July. Any initial thoughts, Sam?
Hey team, sorry is late. We're looking at the doc and then like any questions that we have or what are...
Yeah, like curious, like is this something that would be helpful for you and your team? Like is this something that you would use? Like do you feel like you already have like other structures that you're going to use to drive planning?
Yep. I really like the attendance continuum. I think it's like really clear, and we haven't yet decided who's like owning attendance more broadly, but I think this offers just like a bunch of like resources, like kind of a one-stop shop for, especially if they've never done, or they like just weren't as involved with attendance this year.
Okay. With that, I'm gonna pass it back to Mahoney for some.
Yes. Okay. So last time, some people said that they would value a sort of like example PD that they could then sort of turnkey with folks, particularly on like more intensive attendance interventions. So I asked Pete earlier today if he would be 10th grader student, Pete Cohn, who's getting a tier 2 intervention. I'm going to be his advisor. Sarah's going to be his mother. We're recording this. And so part of the idea is to like model something that could then be like, y'all could turnkey with people. And also if we want, we could actually just like, if you want people just to watch this video, like we could just try to like do this role play in a tight enough way that you could just like share this video with people if you didn't even want to have to like model it yourself. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm also going to drop into the chat the doc we're using. And so on this attendance continuum thing that you're just mentioning, Sam, this is kind of like a template to fill out your interventions. There is a little guidance document here that gives an example of a filled out continuum that that we're going to sort of be like basing this model off of. So I'm pretending that we're in like the tier 2 level intervention, and Pete and I are having an informal problem solving conference. And so I've linked this. This is just something I kind of stole from Gold and tweaked a little bit from the template that she was using with the advisors this year at ASA. And so I'm going to chat this to you. You can see that Pete Cohn is my sample student here. And it makes sense to be able to kind of reference this. And also as I'm doing this, there's a couple of guiding questions that I want you thinking about. Those questions are here. And I'm also going to drop them in the chat. So think about like, what's the flow of this meeting and why is it organized this way? How are we putting the heavy thinking on Pete? What moves am I doing that make this plan more likely to succeed? And kind of in a meta level, like how am I structuring this PD experience for y'all that you could then like apply in a PD experience you're giving to your team? And so again, these questions are coming in the chat. And so we're gonna start, Pete, with just jumping right in. So you're a 10th grader. It's September of next year. We're meeting. You have 3 absences. And we're particularly worried about that because we remember that it's with a semester schedule, like by the time he gets to like 6, he might not get credit for this class. So here's Pete, Sarah, and begin scene. Hey, Pete, Ms. Cohn, thank you all for being here in this meeting today. I'm excited to talk to you because we have a serious situation happening where Pete has now missed 3 days of school. And because of the way our school is running this year with semester schedule, that unfortunately means that Pete's at risk of not passing his classes for this semester, because you know if we get to 6 absences, then that could mean that he doesn't get credit for any of his classes. So I'm excited to solve that problem with y'all today. Pete, I actually want to start first though with talking about your strengths and your goals for your future, and I want to connect that to attendance. So can you tell me a little bit about what you like most about being at school?
I liked it better like last year when we did school online. When we were logging into class. I like working on the computer.
Yeah, so I definitely hear that, and I agree that like computer is definitely one of your interests and skill areas, and I think that's really cool because I think that's going to be something that you can be able to use in college too. What are some things that you do appreciate though about being back at school this year?
I like being able to see my friends. Some of my teachers from last year, seeing them is kind of nice. Yeah, seeing.
Yeah, give me an example. Like, who are some teachers that you're excited to see again?
It's always cool to see Mr. Gleaves. I was in his class last year, Global Justice, and he always like gets me joked out. So like getting to see him, he makes me laugh in the hallway. So that's cool.
Totally. Yeah, he's a great guy. And Ms. Cohn, I want you to kind of weigh in on this too, but what are your goals for Pete, for yourself, and Ms. Cohn for Pete after he's leaving high school? What are you picturing?
I want him to be able to do whatever he wants. What we've been talking about now is college. He really wants to go to ULL, and so my goal for him would be to get into ULL, to get a scholarship to ULL, and to start there.
Nice, Pete. What you think?
I like I said, like to work on computers. So like maybe I don't know, doing like video game design or something like that could be cool.
I could totally see that, Pete. That's super exciting. I want us to keep that picture in mind as we're talking about attendance right now, because I want us to feel the connection between what you're doing right now in school and how you're setting yourself up for that college degree that you want. So I think that's totally possible, and I can totally picture you doing that. It will mean that you have to be really focused about your attendance and grades this year. So let's dig in a little bit to this problem. Again, we said you have 3 absences because you have semester classes. If you miss 6 days of school this semester, you don't get credit for any of your classes. So what's going on? What's happening on those days that you missed school?
Like, I know I missed a couple of days last week. I just didn't wake up, so I missed the bus those days.
What's going on there? Were you staying up late?
Yes, I was playing the game a couple nights last week. I guess I kind of, played too late.
What game?
Okay.
How late are you staying up? What are we talking about here?
I don't know. I think one night it was like 3 or something.
Miss Cohn, did you know Pete was staying up till 3 a.m. on a school night?
I did not, because I am asleep, because my schedule just shifted, and so I get up at 5 and leave for the hospital at 5.
Okay.
6 at the latest.
So what I'm hearing, Pete, is that you actually, nobody's there at home when you're getting up in the morning for school, and you've also been staying up super late. It would be very hard for me to be getting up at 6:30 in the morning if I was up till 3 in the morning.
Yeah, that's why I liked it better on the computer, because I could just, like wake up and log in.
So it's a big change, right? It's a big change having to get up and come to school. That sounds like that's definitely a problem we need to solve. I want to dig a little bit deeper though. How are you feeling about school in general? What are some hard things about it other than having to be in the building?
You said I was failing geometry. I feel like that teacher doesn't like me. Like, she put me out of class beginning of the year. I wasn't even doing anything. She didn't like me.
Okay, so you're feeling not great about that relationship right now, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And does that affect how much you feel like coming to school in the morning? Sometimes are you feeling less excited because of that?
Yeah, I don't even want to go, but I have to.
Okay. Anything else going on with you, Pete?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, Pete, I also know that you have a number of days where you have come to school consistently, where you've gotten up, you've been there on time. It's been wonderful to see you. What's different for you on those days?
I guess those are days when I wake up on time, and I feel like rested, ready to go. I got my work done the night before, and I'm like good to go.
Yep. Okay. That feels important to name. Do you have a normal evening routine, Pete? Do you have like a thing that you normally do when you get home from school?
I mean, it depends. Some days I'll like get on the game. Some days I'll like take a nap. Some days I'll be like outside for a while. Okay, this is really helpful. I think we need to start thinking about how we're going to address some of your lifestyle choices in the evening so that you can be feeling good about getting up and coming to school every day. So let's start thinking about some solutions to that. And I'm going to be writing them down here on this plan. So what I'm hearing, first of all, are some barriers for you. Mom, you're leaving for work early, so you're not around when Pete's getting ready for school. Pete, you're staying up late, playing video games. And you're also feeling like not as connected to some of your teachers as you'd like, especially geometry, and that's not making you as excited sometimes. Let's start with your schedule. Pete, what's a way that we can get you to have a more consistent evening routine so that you can be waking up and feeling energized like you do on those good days? I guess like maybe making sure to be off the game at a certain time.
Okay. Ms. Cohn, I'm wondering if tomorrow during advisory, Pete and I can make a schedule of what he wants his evening to look like in morning, and then we can share that with you, and then you can work on that with him in the evening times.
That would be great. I love that idea. And I think, if he's playing his game on his phone, maybe I take the phone and then put it back in his room before I leave in the morning.
You heard that, Pete?
Yeah.
Sorry, Pete, need you at school.
And Pete, maybe if we can get up to the point where you graduate from this plan, maybe we can not have to do that anymore. And I want to let you know that this plan isn't going to be forever. If we can have you at 0 more additional absences by 6 weeks from now in November, then we can graduate from this, and you can be on track to not needing as much support. So we're gonna make a schedule. I also know that you said you feel good about Mr. Gleaves. What if we had an opportunity where you and he can connect a little bit more often at school? Maybe if you're hitting your attendance goals.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
What would you like to do if you were just gonna connect with Mr. Gleaves?
I don't know, maybe like either like basketball in the gym or like get lunch or something.
Cool. What about perfect attendance on Friday? If you have perfect attendance for the week on Friday, he can hang out with you during lunchtime.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay, finally, I'm hearing that you don't have a great relationship with your geometry teacher. I happen to know that Ms. Young cares about you a lot, but I understand how you're not feeling connected to her right now. I also think you could benefit from doing some attendance recovery so you don't slip deeper in a hole. What if we set you up with some attendance recovery options with her so that you can be working with her on Fridays, get caught up, and start to connect with her?
So I do the work on Friday and then they take away my absences, is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm hoping we can get 2 of those done by the time your plan ends in November. Does that work?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'm gonna work with you to send an email to Miss Young so that you can make that plan with her. Okay. Miss Cohen, what's the best way of kind of keeping in touch with you as we're working on these things so that you're in the loop?
Text is great. I don't have my phone on me all day, but I get to check it at certain points throughout.
What's a good day in the week for me just to kind of be updating you?
Update. In the early evening, like 5 p.m. most weekdays, I'll be home.
So if we said like 5 p.m. every Friday, I'll send you a text on how attendance is going that week.
That would be great.
And you can let me know how the evening schedule is going.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, Pete. Last thing, if you do miss the bus, what do we do? What happens if you miss the bus?
I don't know, maybe I could get my auntie to take me to school or get on the RTA or something.
Miss Cohen, what do you think?
Say that one more time, Pete.
Maybe either like take the RTA or get my aunt to take me to school.
Got it. I think I can talk to his aunt about like being a backup option. Yeah, I can talk to her about that.
Okay, cool. I like that. Pete, I also want you to text me in the morning if that happens so I know what's going on. I know you're not just sleeping in, that you're working on a solution. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ms. Cohn, Pete and I are going to be making our schedule. We're going to share it with you tomorrow. I'm going to text you every Friday on how his attendance is going. And we're going to work with Mr. Gleaves on that attendance plan where he has that lunch with you. Does that sound good, Pete?
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm very grateful for this conversation, the way you showed up for it, Pete. It took a lot of maturity for you to be making this kind of plan. It also shows a lot of executive functioning skills that you're thinking through how to solve problems, which are going to help you in college. I think if we can do this, then you're going to be on track for mastering these classes this semester and graduate and go to college. All right, end scene. Thank you for the acting, Pete and Miss Cohn. Discussion questions. We're gonna pop into a breakout just for like 3 minutes. And again, just reflect on those 4 questions that are in the chat. I'm gonna chat it one more time. And then we'll kind of reflect the whole group. And so Sarah, would you mind just popping us into a breakout? Hey everybody. Sorry, Sam was giving me some feedback on the background noise, and I do apologize for that. I did not. It's never been this loud in this coffee shop before. It was alarmingly loud, but I hope that didn't distract.
Yeah. I was like, where is that? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, There it is. But let's hear what y'all were thinking. What were some reflections on the flow of the meeting? Let's start with that. Just stamp, what was the flow that we went through from like beginning to end there?
We talked about the formality of it, having somewhere to like catch your thoughts. Sometimes Caitlin talked about like sometimes you forget about the things, you talk about it, and then you're like, what did we decide again? So the formality of it, big picture thinking to like now, like what is the actual plan and what are the things that we're gonna do? And we also talked about I don't remember what the training is that you lead, Mahoney, because it's all of the acronyms. Tease somebody, but
Yeah,
for
that's
me,
right.
it made me think about like the questioning, and not like lecturing the kid, but asking a lot of questions and making sure that that child is able to come to the conclusion of like what the problem is. Instead of you just saying like, you don't come to school, you need to come to school. It's like, what is really the problem? Like, what is the thing? And like, what do you think is an appropriate like solution, goal setting? Yeah, because sometimes we just tell the kid to do this thing and we don't really know what the actual issue is.
Nice.
I don't know if I'm missing anything, Caitlin.
Caitlin, anything to add?
No, that was the big thing for me. I really liked the clarity of it all. Starting off with like the big picture and like a clear, like, this is why it's concerning at this point. And then kind of like trickling down to the finer details of like, okay, let's see how we can like improve this starting tomorrow. And just like the clear outline of how to succeed and how like they're going to meet the requirements. I think that's helpful for like case manager and student to feel successful.
Cool. I'm just going to put a couple of key points here that I brainstormed, a lot of which y'all already said, but just come off mute and holler if any of these key points jump out to you as particularly important.
One thing that was like different than some of the meetings that I've done in the past was I like how there was like an end date. Like if you like have meet this data threshold by this time, like the 6 weeks or whatever, then you'll be off this plan. And sometimes that's something I forget. And I think that just having that like light at the end of the tunnel thing you're working towards is so important.
Cool. Any other thoughts?
I really resonate with actions must be specific and realistic. I think sometimes, especially when working with advisors, sometimes it's like broad and just like not the most accomplishable based on what a kid's accomplished so far. So I really like that push.
Yeah. And I just remember this is tier 2 because like the advisor has a lot of different duties. And so if they're saying like, I'm going to come pick you up every morning and like cook you breakfast, and they say they're going to do that for like 5 kids in their advisory, it's like, no, you're not. And then like, then it's not going to work out. And so make sure that they're like picking goals that they can sort of manage within the scope of their other work. Other reflections? Okay, getting meta. If you were me and you were giving this PD to somebody, what would you have your participants do next? Come on, be brave. What would you do next? I just modeled something. I debriefed it and stamped some key points. You really want the people to be ready to do it. So what would you do?
We would practice.
Yeah, Sam. Practice. So we're gonna go in, I think we'll do like Sam, Caitlin, and Pete and Sarah. Would y'all mind doing it together? And then one person's gonna be Pete, one person's gonna be advisor. Just do the same story so you don't have to brainstorm a new scenario. And we won't go through it twice for the sake of time. So instead, make sure you're listening. Instead, what you're gonna do is like, Caitlin's gonna be the advisor. She'll go until I say switch. Maybe you'll get down to what the problems are. And then Sam's gonna be the advisor, but you're gonna pick up from that same story. So it's like you're switching roles, but it's the same seen. And that way you'll get to see the meeting from start to finish. Both of y'all will get, for part of that meeting, a chance to be the advisor. What are we about to do, Caitlin?
We're gonna practice.
But be specific, because, and I want you to be specific. I'm kind of modeling. People will definitely mess this up if you don't make it really clear how the practice is going to switch.
We are gonna practice going through the tier 2 attendance plan meeting. I'm gonna go and be the advisor until you say switch, and we're gonna stop wherever. And then Sam is gonna become the advisor, and we're gonna switch roles.
Yep, but the same conversation. You're not going to start at the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to drop this in the chat one more time. And then the CFS for this is just following these steps and using these sentence stems if you need to. So your goal is to follow these steps and pull out these key points. Okay, so here we go. Sarah, you got the breakouts?
Yeah. So Pete and me together, right?
Correct.
Sam, room 2.
Okay, what I would love for us to do now is to share one thing that your partner did that helped you be likely to come to school as you were the student, and see if you can connect it to one of these 8 things. So what's something your partner did, and see if you can connect it to one of these things on the screen.
I think the one thing that Sarah did really well was in like in probing for the underlying causes, like really like getting granular and making sure that she understood the whole situation and like everything that was going on, and that was like what allowed us to then find solutions that could work.
Okay, Sarah, keep going.
She's done this before or something, I don't know.
I think Pete like started, like the pacing was nice, and so like he like asked questions and sort of like were eased into it well. Did a nice job there, and like I felt really affirmed in my conversation. He like shouted me out in my contributions to the advisory.
Sam, Caitlin.
One thing Caitlin did really well, I thought she like really hit on specific and realistic. Like we started going down like the alarm pathway, like how many alarms, or you have an alarm set? And it's like, all right, well, let's set some more alarms, because like that one doesn't seem to be working, which is like such a like a simple thing, but could actually like make a big difference for a kid who just like might like hit the snooze or like just turn that one alarm off because they've been up all night. So I think that really hit on that one.
Sam was clear on next steps after the meeting. It was very clear, like, I am going to see you tomorrow and we're going to have a check-in and we're going to check in about this specific thing. And also in addition to that, it was like, she made it clear that she was like invested on like what I wanted out of high school too. So it's just like really showed that she like cared and someone was like looking out for me.
Great. Okay, now we're gonna get meta. So I just trained you on how to like lead this intervention, but the point was not to train you, but to give you a model for how you could train other people. And so first of all, how did I sequence this learning experience that we just did? Just who can like stamp the steps that I took in this model?
You talked about what you're gonna do, you did it, and then you had us practice. I feel like that's not right, but
it's not quite right because it was a little bit flipped. I first showed you something, and I had you gather the insights before I shared the answers, and that just puts some of the heavier lifting on the adult because I'm giving you an experience to interact with and process, and then I give you my key points, and that's often to be more helpful than like sharing the answers first and then modeling it because it gets people more thinking. And then obviously I did this practice. Okay, let's talk about number 2. How could you see yourself doing a training like this for the future? And there's some sub questions here, but just want you to like think, if you're actually going to train like people on running a intervention like this going into next year, what are some things you're thinking about right now?
I'm thinking, I normally try and do like our first attendance team meeting. I think this one I did like before school started so we could get a jump on it. I would ideally like to have a training like this at that meeting. I think that would be super helpful. And I would like to train, I'm hoping that all advisors are on the attendance team this upcoming school year. So hopefully I would get to train like all of them and anyone else on the attendance team meeting who would be doing these interventions.
Great. Other thoughts?
For question C, is it like what you would add to this training or like other training?
So I think the spirit of that is like people could leave the training I just did knowing how to have an attendance conference, but they may not know how to log it, when to do it, how to sort of like work that into their schedule. And so there's a bunch of like systems facing things that I didn't prioritize in this training, but you would need to think about if you're actually gonna get people to do it. Because this is like the skill in the moment, but not this system around the skill.
Perfect. That I was gonna add, I would add like a practice logging piece.
Anything else y'all want to stamp as either things that you like appreciate or would do differently about this if you were training people on how to lead an intervention like this?
I think one thing that might be helpful if we're talking like advisors in whole school is grounding sort of like what realistic is and like what is possible or not possible. Like I threw out a scenario where I felt like maybe it's like we're gonna talk to the bus company and get your bus like pickup time changed or stopped and sort of making sure people aren't giving solutions that they actually can't provide, whether it's them personally, the bus company, etc.
I think some additional support advisors might need, especially advisors who started with their kids virtually, is like maybe like some prompts or questions when like a kid can't yet like name like what barriers they're facing or like can't yet like kind of come up with solutions. So like figuring out how to make sure like folks aren't stuck if the kid's like, I don't know, for the whole thing.
I think helping people picture like when this could happen, both within the school day and outside of it. So like helping them think about like when in my actual schedule am I going to do this, so they're more likely to actually do it at that time.
Cool, great. And I think especially to start, if you're able to like do the training and then like 2 weeks into the school year when you know this is going to happen, like actually schedule PD time for them to just like make the meetings happen, it's probably going to shape the path for them to be able to do it more independently in the future. Okay, so we're going to pause there on the training. Hopefully that was valuable. We're going to ask for feedback in a moment. We're going to kind of close with two things. One is just coming back to like our future planning. Let's do a whip on just like, we're not going to meet again for 2 more weeks, 5/19. What progress do you hope to make on some of the planning that for next year by that time?
I want to have like clear, or at least clear proposed owners. That's fine. Clear proposed owners for the for attendance needs or whatever we're gonna call it.
Wolves?
I'm the same, but I also want to get a clearer picture from leadership on like what they're thinking in terms of like advisory structure and all of that, because I think that's going to impact what our attendance team looks like.
Cool. If there's any way that you want to take a moment to reflect on how to do those things in the next couple of weeks, whether it's a GCal or some other note, take a few seconds to do that. And then we'll give some feedback and close out. Okay, so feedback both on keeps and tweaks for this session, but also be thinking about just generally what you want from me and Sarah in terms of support going forward, whether that's like individual check-ins, other things you want us to bring to this space, other resources. So feedback.
I like the modeling of the PD. I thought that was helpful. And like appreciate the push to like really metacognate. I thought it made it a lot more sticky.
Are there any other topics or trainings that you'd like to see Sam or anybody else in these next couple of meetings?
I feel like one thing that might be helpful is we did this part and then maybe like modeling like accountability convos or check-ins with advisors who are struggling with or not completing the conversation.
Any resonance there, Pete, Caitlin, Sam? Does that seem like potentially useful? Okay. Other thoughts? Anything y'all are just would value in terms of your own process, either in terms of check-ins, resources, templates, anything like that? Topics you want to bring to the next meeting? Okay. Pretty impressive amount of wait time that I gave though, right? All right, I'm about to be offline for a few days. So if you have any attendance questions, talk to Sarah, not me. Oh, hey, Chanel. Welcome. Chanel, we'll send you our recording of the awesome role play PD that we did, minus all the background noise I had.
That would be super awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm getting married.
I would say let's all come off mute and give some cheers or shout outs for Mahoney. We're so excited for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, attendance questions. I won't answer them for like 9 days, but Sarah will. So, and I'll talk to y'all if not before the next PLC or the next PLC.